Good morning, everyone. I'm Brent Francis, Director of Advocacy and Outreach with the Edmonton Chamber of Commerce, and welcome to our event, Meet the Mayoral Candidates, presented by DynaLIFE. Your MC for today's event will be Jeffrey Sundquist, President and CEO of the Edmonton Chamber of Commerce. Over to you, Jeffrey.
Thanks, Brent, and hello and good morning, everyone. I'm pleased to be your moderator for this very important discussion. But in the spirit of respect, collaboration, and truth, I would like to begin by honoring and recognizing that our meeting today takes place on Treaty 6 territory, the traditional lands of First Nations and Métis peoples. For those new to our events at the Edmonton Chamber, a very warm welcome to you as well. The Edmonton Chamber has the distinction of being one of the longest running and most influential business organizations in Canada. Our 1,700 member companies of all sizes employ over 100,000 people in the Edmonton metropolitan region. At the Chamber, we have three key tenets. They are to advocate, educate, and connect. We impact the policies and practices of governments. Our opinion matters. We bring businesses and thought leaders together to share experience. And we build connections and drive business success through our member network. I want to thank our presenting sponsor, DynaLIFE Medical Labs, for their support. We could not host this event without you. I would also like to thank our supporting sponsors, the Insurance Bureau of Canada, ZAG, and Global Public Affairs. Now, all proceeds from today's ticket sales are being donated to the Edmonton Chamber Endowment Fund for Children. Your attendance today is helping to feed Edmonton's future business leaders, so thank you. I would now like to introduce Jason Pincock, Chief Executive Officer of DynaLIFE Medical Labs, to share a few words. Jason.
Well, thanks, Jeff, and good morning, everyone. It's my privilege to be here on behalf of DynaLIFE as a supporting sponsor for this really important event. We've all struggled, and I can't wait till we can once again be in person. But until that time, we're really facing a critical time for our city and for our region. As we move out of COVID, it is so important for us to find a path forward and to find leadership that we can all get behind. I'm really excited. I know many of the leaders that we're going to hear today. I know that they are all passionate about this city in their own way. And I'm really excited as one of downtown's largest employers to see what the vision is for the city of Edmonton moving forward. DynaLIFE has over 700 people working in the downtown and about 1,000 people working in the Edmonton region. And so it's really critical for us to have a partner in the city. And so I'm so excited, as many of you are from the business community today, to hear from our candidates, to really understand their passion, their view, and their vision for our great city as we move out of this time of COVID. And so with that, I'd like to thank the Chamber for putting this on. I'd like to thank the candidates for agreeing to participate. And most importantly, I'd like to thank all of you in our business community for really putting in the effort today and to ask great questions and to make sure that we all feel comfortable about who we're moving forward with and how we move forward in this great city. With that, I'll turn it back to you, Jeff, and look forward to a great presentation. And again, on behalf of DynaLIFE, thank you everyone for being here today.
Thanks, Jason, and thanks again to DynaLIFE. Now, today we are grateful to have the 5 leading mayoral candidates in studio for you to speak about their vision for our city. To keep everyone safe, we are following applicable provincial COVID-19 restrictions and guidelines, as well as specific workplace safety rules here at the Encore studio. We have plexiglass dividing each of our candidates with adequate distancing, and given our classification, we are not required to wear masks while seated. In addition to the 5 candidates on stage, we also provided the remaining mayoral candidates with the opportunity to appear at our forum. We asked them to send in videos introducing themselves and their priorities. Now, we've randomly selected the order of the videos as well as the speaking order of our candidates on stage today. We have Krishel, Mike Nicholl, Michael Archery, Amarjeet Sohi, and Cheryl Watson on stage with us today. They will introduce themselves in a few minutes, and we have received videos from Diana Steele, Brian Gregg, and Rick Comrie. We will play them for you now.
Good morning. I would like to thank the Edmonton Chamber of Commerce for providing me with 2 minutes to introduce myself to you here today. My name is Diana Steele, and I am one of 11 candidates running to be Edmonton's next mayor. I would have introduced myself to you in person. However, I am not polling high enough to have been warranted an invitation. This is not an ego thing. This is about democracy not being represented here in our city. There are far too many historical examples of individuals who have not been represented in the polls, even days before an election, who have come in to take the win. And it seems that we are not yet learning from this history. This election has brought a small group of like-minded citizens who are all vying for the same job together. I've developed personal relationships with nearly every candidate, and I will tell you there is a lot of behind-the-scenes support. This tells me that you cannot lose with whoever you choose in this election. Even after the votes have been tallied and a winner named, many of us have pledged our continued support to help our city. But if you are looking for a mayor who is nonpartisan, not a career politician, community-minded, kind, compassionate, and transparent, and someone who will wake up every single day determined to make this the greatest city in the world, then I am your girl. It is not about electing me as the mayor of Edmonton. It is about giving a voice to all Edmontonians through me. I hope you will take the time to review all 11 candidates, not just those with name recognition or with pull to get themselves in a room, or those being presented to you by the press. This is not democracy, and it is exactly what the average citizen is pushing back against.
Hello, everybody. My name is Brian Breezy Gregg, and I'm running to be our next mayor of the city of Edmonton, also known by its traditional name, Amiskwashi Waskahigan. I want to lead this city because I feel like we're one big family. We really are. And we can't do things on our own. We have to cooperate with each other. And that's the kind of tone that I want to bring to City Council, of where we're going to find the things that bring us all together, not the things that are going to tear us apart and make us angry with one another and break up into groups. We want to find the things that are going to bring us together. Actually, the title of our platform for this campaign is Building a Caring Economy with Love and Respect for Everyone. And number one of the 14 points on our platform is getting big money out of politics. I just think all over the world, and even in our own city, there's just too much big money in politics. The politicians are all going out asking you for a donation so that they can buy advertising and have plastic signs and paper brochures in your mailbox. And I just don't think it's appropriate in this time. I think that we have to focus on transitioning to a better economy. The economy that we've been having has been based on cheap labor and low taxes. And it's just not the kind of economy that's fair to everyone. We have like a big gap between the rich and the poor. Homeless is not being addressed properly. There's young people can't afford to buy a home. We need to change things up. I know that I like to joke and everything, but I'm serious. I do want to have a better government in our city, and I think that I can help bring that. They're rolling their eyes in their minds. Listen to the banjos. They're rolling their eyes in their minds. I can feel it in my guts. I know they think I'm nuts. They're rolling their eyes in their minds. And the voters of Edmonton are rolling their eyes in their awesome minds. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a great day.
Good afternoon. I'm Rick Comrie, Mayor Candidate. Welcome to the Chamber of Commerce Mayor's Forum. Before we begin, I'd just like to say thanks to the doctors, nurses, frontline workers, and support staff, and the emergency crews for keeping us safe in pandemic-like conditions. I'm honored to be here today with the other candidates, and I confess they're all great people. But their platforms represent the status quo, and that falls far short from taxpayer expectations. Our mayor and our city council, their alliance with misplaced federal policy has proven to be an enormous gamble, and it's clearly failed. It has set a stage for income classification, government overreach, and the erosion of our rights and freedoms. A city in crisis, Edmonton is the 4th highest crime city in Canada, putting infrastructure ahead of social wellness. But leaving behind our seniors and people with disabilities, homelessness, crime, substance abuse, suicide, we have lost our moral and fiscal compass. My platform calls for an independent financial audit that will act as a guiding light for the next 4 to 8 years, but it will make transparent city expenditures, our affordability, and taxpayer liabilities. But in addition, launching of a new policing and enforcement program, a greater focus on community first, elimination of Vision Zero, and allowing the automobile to contribute to economic recovery. Vote for accountability, stability, and economic recovery. I'm Rick Comrie. Vote for me on October 18th.
That's great. Now let's hear from our in-studio candidates, their opening remarks, and I would ask that they limit their comments to 2 minutes. First up is Kim Krishel. Kim.
First of all, I'd like to thank the Edmonton Chamber of Commerce, and I want to do a shout out to all of the businesses who I know have been struggling. Our city is at a pivotal point in time, and our next mayor will need to be able to hit the ground running with a real understanding of how our city works and what it's like to run a business. And I have that experience, and I care about Edmonton and our collective future. When I left City Council in 2013, Edmonton was in good shape. We were building a new downtown arena. We closed our municipal airport after many years of debate, paving the way for downtown development, and our taxes were competitive, and our city was full of economic optimism. Today, we are challenged. We were facing significant economic challenges before this pandemic hit. Our taxes are no longer competitive, and businesses are coming outside of our city limits. If we continue down the track we're on, I am worried that Edmonton will be a have-not city. Things need to change, and I am a leader to make and lead that change. I will bring a client service culture to our city administration. I will get our taxes and our spending under control. I will recognize our local businesses by reviewing our procurement policy, and I will introduce my Main Streets Downtown strategy to ensure that our core is safe, accessible, and welcoming. But let's be real. No platform is going to anticipate everything that our city and council will face over the next 4 years, and nor should it. So I think what voters need to know is what you can expect from me as your mayor, as the leader of our city. I bring a balanced and bold approach, and I have a track record of getting things done for Edmonton, and I am for Edmonton. Thank you.
Thanks, Kim. Next, we have Mike Nicholl. Off to you, Mike.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me today. You know, we started this campaign about a year ago in the belief for freedom and opportunity for the ordinary Edmontonian. And we talk about 3 things, very practical things, because we all know, frankly, that City Hall is broken. And yes, this is a change election. So first of all, we talk about crime. We talk about homelessness. I do not see how it is compassionate to allow broken people that wander our streets anymore. We need to focus on treatment for trauma and addiction. We need to stream these people off the streets, because if you do not have safety, you do not have a marketplace. If you do not have a marketplace, people don't pay taxes, and if they don't pay taxes, you can't have nice things. And then we talk about right-sizing the administration. We talk about the fact we need to delayer 2 levels of management and save $50 million minimum a year. We're building this plan with business and labor. And then we need to better project delivery. Oh my goodness, I have heard story after story and witnessed it myself on how we need to do a better job. So we look at a separate delivery mechanism called an independent project management office. And in doing so, we know we can save 10 to 15% on capital, and you can check that out. But last and most importantly, we have to look forward past COVID. This should be a conversation about jobs and the economy. about an optimistic future, a great future, because we do have the assets, we do have the people, we do have the talent to compete with anyone, anywhere in the world. I've traveled quite a bit, and you know what? Edmonton is that city. It is that great city. It's that city of champions that I firmly believe in. So when you go out to vote, you're voting for change. And so hopefully you can see what we're trying to do on our campaign, because it is about you, because I am working for you. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Now off to you, Michael Archery.
Over 8 months and thousands of conversations, I know Edmontonians want to keep our city moving forward, but there is a strong caveat. We know that money is limited. We have to work on the big challenges, but we must be more focused and financially responsible. And this is what I will bring to the mayor's chair: a forward-thinking agenda that is underpinned by stronger fiscal management and a more focused council team. We also need to bring private investment into our city to build the businesses that will recover our tax base and help to pay for all the challenges we have to undertake. And I'm uniquely qualified to do that, and I will. I'm ready to get to work, and let me tell you how I'm going to begin. I will bring council together to prepare for the 2022 budget to maintain a 0% tax increase. I will begin the process to remove the City of Edmonton as the lead developer of the terrible Blatchford development. I will prioritize expansion of supports for small and medium-sized businesses and institute permit and business license guarantees. I will work with council and administration to fund the after-school rec program to guarantee access to rec centers for all kids over 18 every day after school. And I will meet with Indigenous elders and others to establish our first Truth and Reconciliation Accountability Week. I will also get to work to fix our broken relationship with the provincial government. As a city, we are now on the outside of every important conversation about shared goals. Political games across all levels of government have been damaging to our city, and I offer a clean slate that is not poisoned by past partisanships. You know, Edmonton is a great city, and I'm ready to fight passionately and lead it into what I know will be a bright and prosperous future for all of us. And I ask you for your support on October 18th. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Next, we have Amarjeet Sohi. Amarjeet.
So let me highlight 12 points how I will support economic growth in our city. Developed guaranteed timelines for building permits, licenses, and inspections to give predictability and certainty. Create a business advocate office, one-stop shop to help small, medium, and equity-seeking groups. Strike a permanent mayor's council on economic growth. Establish Edmonton Innovation Fund. Undertake a comprehensive review of city spending to seek efficiencies and effectiveness while keeping taxes low and well below the rate of inflation. Retrofit 30,000 homes and buildings annually to fight climate change and create blue-collar jobs. Continue to invest in infrastructure to help construction and engineering businesses sustain during economic recovery. Use my leadership, experience, and connections to untap our potential future industries in pharmaceuticals, petrochemicals, hydrogen, lithium, renewable energy, carbon capture, storage, and utilization. And therefore, 3 more intersecting themes I want to talk about to spur economic growth. I will continue to invest in quality public services to keep our economy and people moving. I will work with partners to tackle homelessness, mental health, addiction crisis to help people heal, to revitalize downtown and other business districts. I will invest in the arts and culture to enhance quality of life, to attract talent and investments. I will aggressively pursue anti-racism discrimination programs in Edmonton to maintain and enhance our reputation as an inclusive and welcoming community for top talent. Thank you so much for having us here today.
Thanks, Amarjeet. And finally, off to Cheryl Watson.
Like you, I'm a business leader. I've honed my skills working for some of the most successful companies in the world at some of their most transformational times. IBM during Y2K, and Intuit through their evolution from a North American desktop company to an online global software leader. COVID has changed everything: how we live, learn, and work. I am a change leader with the financial and risk acumen skills that will be necessary to lead our city forward, out of COVID and beyond. My platform is built on 3 main pillars. Place. We need to create a safe, welcoming, well-built, and well-maintained city that we can all be proud of. Partnerships. The City of Edmonton is in 74 lines of business. We need to stop doing other people's work and focus on doing our own job with excellence. Potential. Our future economy must be built on our legacy industries while embracing our strengths in technology and talent creation. But in order to realize this future, we must deal with what's right in front of us. I've been consistent from the beginning that I will bring fresh perspective, challenge the status quo, and most recently I've called for a pause on the west leg of the LRT Valley Line. This is critical. It's our largest infrastructure investment, nearly $3 billion, and we're facing a very serious risk to that money. On December 15th, we faced the final project deadline on the east line of the Valley LRT line, and there are serious issues that none of our current leadership is talking about. With that, we cannot move forward with the final leg. If you want change, you have the ability to affect that. On October 18th, I am asking for your vote for a city that just works.
And for further information on any of the candidates, please visit the municipal election survey responses at edmontonchamber.com. Now, today we would like today's mayoral forum to be more of a conversation and discussion rather than a debate. We feel it important to ensure that each candidate has equitable time and we have proper decorum. So here's the format. I will ask the first few questions. After that, the majority of our time will be devoted to questions from the audience. Now you can submit your questions at any time using the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen. We would ask candidates to limit their responses to 1 minute so that we may stay within the forum's time frame. We will be using a timer for both myself and the candidates can see in order to stay within that allotted time. So let's get to it. So candidates, you may have seen the Chamber launch its Better When It's Yeg campaign. So in the spirit of supporting local, what is your favorite restaurant or retailer? Let's go to Michael first.
Well, thank you. There's a restaurant in the West End called Ichiban, which is a really small neighborhood sushi restaurant owned by a really nice family, and they've been there for years, and they've been working really hard. You know, I love going to that place, great food and really nice people. And the thing that really impressed me about them the most recently is with COVID, they've shut down except for takeout, and they've managed to survive and work hard and still are only doing a takeout business. So it really shows the resilience of our small business owners in the city, and I'm really happy to support them and talk about them here today.
Great, thanks Michael. Now, how about you, Cheryl?
I want to shout out my best friend Holly's store, My Favorite Ants. This is a consignment store. It's over on 86th Street and about 52nd Avenue. This is a 40-year family business. It was created by 2 moms who were really looking for ways that they could get gently used children's clothing. This business has then been handed down to their daughters. So I would encourage you to go check it out.
Great, thanks Cheryl. How about you, Kim?
You know, I would do a shout out for Tiramisu. It's located on 124th Street and it's a female-owned business, a family business, and it has amazing food and it's a great atmosphere. And they've actually been doing amazing things during COVID and making it through.
Great, thanks Kim. Amarjeet.
You know, we are so lucky to have such a multicultural and indigenous businesses, particularly restaurants and arts and culture. You know, I enjoy so much of our diversity and what this city has to offer. So it's hard to pick one, but if I were to pick one, I would pick the Oil Lamp downtown on 97th Street that I frequented so often when I was a city councillor, and looking forward to visiting them again once the things get better.
Terrific. And finally, Mike.
Geez, it's hard to just pick one, but there's a restaurant, Pazo Pazo, And a lot of city councilors would know it's right by City Hall. The portions are huge, and it's been there, and the service has been fantastic, and it's just a great restaurant. I've always enjoyed going there, and it's just one of those restaurants that you want to support because it's just that Edmonton product. We have such, the thing here is that, and you heard from all the candidates, we've got a great culinary scene here, and this is one of the opportunities we have to sell the city. Is that we have these individual restaurants, these entrepreneurs taking these risks. And it's been tough. It's been absolutely tough. And I'm pretty sure you're going to hear from all the candidates. We need to cut that red tape for them. We need to lower the cost for them to do in business. But in the end, I'll pick Paso Paso because, boy, I love that restaurant.
Great. Well, thank you all for that. So now we're going to move. I hope you enjoyed the bit of an icebreaker. So we're going to move into the heart of the matter. So next question is, what is the one big move you will make as mayor to set Edmonton up for future economic success? And we're going to start with Cheryl, followed by Amarjeet, Michael, Mike, then Kim. So Cheryl.
I want to talk about my Chief Accountability Officer policy that I announced as my first, because I think it's so important for us to set a solid foundation of learning. We have been wasting too much time and money reevaluating or reinventing the wheel, if you will, when other cities are learning things on our behalf. Chief Accountability Officer would be responsible for taking ideas that council brings forward, going and looking around the world at other jurisdictions to see cities that have already learned and implementing their ideas and policies so that we can move forward much more quickly.
Great, thank you very much. Amarjeet.
I talked about 12 points in my opening remarks, but we need to set the tone. If I get elected as your mayor, I will meet with City Council immediately and build that relationship and give a strong direction to city administration that they should be enablers for us to be successful, our businesses to succeed and grow in our city, and change the culture of this organization from being the manager and being in the way to actually enabling businesses, because business growth is so critical in our city. It also intersects with social issues that we are facing, and also the relationship that we need to build with our region and with the provincial and federal government. So my first priority is going to be set a clear direction, tell administration who is in the driving seat.
Thank you. Off to you, Michael Archery.
Well, economic recovery does not come from government. It's going to come from the private sector. And the number one thing that the government can and should do and will do after I'm the mayor is get out of the way. We have to go to the business community and say, look, what do you want to do and how can we help you? That should be the role of government. There's rules, we all understand that, but we have to get in the way. We don't need more government levels. We don't need more institutional work. We have to let the private sector succeed. And I'm sure we'll talk about tax rates. I'm sure we're going to talk about business permits and licensing. And these are the kind of things that government has to do for the business community. And then we have to celebrate the business community. We have this really, I don't know what it is, this quiet thing going on in the city right now where we're afraid to celebrate the business community, but we'll celebrate everything else in the city. And that's one thing they'll do is make sure that the government gets out of the way and then celebrates the successes that the business community are going to bring to the economic recovery of our city.
Mike Nicholl.
Well, first of all, you have to change what we're doing now. The fact is we need to drive business into town. We need customers into town. And unfortunately, we haven't had that for quite some time. So as mayor, that's the first thing you got to do. The deals got to come to the city, and that has to be moved. And this is why we talk about red tape. This is why we talk about too much management. This is why we talk about taxes are too high. But there's another component here. I talk not just about entrepreneurship, but I also talk about apprenticeship. Because as we drive business into town, we have to build this city, literally, physically. And so we have to work with business and labor as we go out and hunt for business. It's not just one book here that's going to take care of it. The politicians, business and labor, that's the collaboration we need to go out there to drive those opportunities here. And once they're here, then it is on us to close those deals and close them quickly. Because right now, you can hear from everyone, it's just not happening.
Thank you. Kim Krishel.
Jobs and opportunity are certainly the first priority for the new mayor and council. However, we need to understand our fiscal picture. The very first thing that the mayor needs to do is build a team with council immediately, find common ground from all of their platforms so that we can move Edmonton forward together. The next thing is to empower the new city manager in order to make what is going to be some challenging decisions. And we need to look at our fiscal position in terms of our taxes. I've heard from business that we are not competitive, and I am worried that we're becoming the hole in the donut. Businesses are leaving Edmonton, and residents are leaving Edmonton. So to address this, I am calling for a 0% and a 0% and a review of both our residential and our non-residential taxes. And then we can focus on jobs and opportunity and helping our businesses recover from this terrible pandemic.
Thank you, Kim. Now I'd like to read a question provided by our partner, Axis, Edmonton's Aboriginal Business and Professional Association. So the question to our candidates: as the Mayor of Edmonton, with the second largest Indigenous population in Canada, what can be done to address the economic inequities faced by Indigenous Edmontonians? And let's start with Amarjeet, followed by Mike, Cheryl, Kim, then Michael. Amarjeet.
The reason that we have created the Business Advocate Office is actually listening to equity-seeking groups from racialized communities and from Indigenous communities, that their voices must be included in city decision-making, that they need the support to get access to procurement, to programs and services, and sustainable funding to support organizations that the Rocky is leading. City needs to make sure that we are supporting Indigenous businesses, building their capacity. But I also heard from so many Indigenous leaders that they need to have a philosophy, that we need to follow philosophy, that nothing for them without them. And they need to be the change leaders in our city, and I'll look forward to working with them.
Thank you. Mike.
Thank you very much. And this is a fantastic question because this gets to the core of how we can add value to what we do. I talk quite a bit about social procurement, about apprenticeships for Indigenous people and veterans and so on. And as we go out and we contract for various services, why are we not putting a contingent on our contracts that have these sort of added values? We got to talk about bringing them forward so they can come into a sustainable lifestyle. They need training. And of course, as we continue to procure other issues, we can focus on those Aboriginal businesses. But this was not my idea. I'll give full credit. This was IBEW who said, we can do better at apprenticeships, and we can do better at employing vulnerable populations through social procurement. And that's kind of the good ideas we need. And that's why I keep saying this is where the collaboration issue outside of City Hall really takes hold.
Great. Off to you, Cheryl.
I've spent the last 4 years working directly in the economic development space. I worked with City Council and administration to found our city's newest economic development agency, Innovate Edmonton. Meanwhile, though, we have this incredible organization called Axis, which is our city's Indigenous economic development agency. But we have not given them the mandate, the support, and the resources that they need to really play a meaningful role in our economic development activities. I believe that one of the most important actions that we can take that will have a meaningful impact would be to bolster the resources and abilities of Axis so that they can take an important and meaningful role alongside our economic development agencies.
Thank you. To you, Kim.
Well, I've been meeting with a number of Indigenous organizations and bands, as well as Access. And the first thing that I've heard is we need to show respect as a level of government. And by doing that, we need to start talking about how can we create and work with the Indigenous organizations on jobs and opportunity. But we also need to address an issue that is very challenging within the Indigenous community, and that is the issue of homelessness and the people who live without a home. And so there's a number of things in my platform that I talk about and what we can do, but I think the key thing is recognizing and working with the Indigenous community. And some of that might be looking at things like an urban reserve. We have the Rossdale lands. That is something that we should be looking at. We're in the land development business quite a bit. And the idea of an Indigenous urban reserve is an approach that I think would give jobs and opportunity and would help to show that Indigenous leaders are doing very well in business and can do very well in business. And I think we need to work with our post-secondary institutions to ensure that we are challenging both our institutions and our businesses to hire Indigenous people, as well as people of diversity.
Thank you, Kim. To you, Michael.
Well, it's time to reconcile our past and move forward with our Indigenous partners. And the time for platitudes and photo ops is over. So let's do something practical. Of the 94 calls to action of the TRC report, 10 of them affect municipalities. And so my plan is to hold an accountability week every year to make sure that we undertake and fulfill the obligations as a city. And then we have to create economic opportunity for the Indigenous partners. And so my plan in West Rossdale that Kim has endorsed, which I think is a winner, is to partner with the Indigenous community, the private sector, and the city to create a hub, a meeting place of down by the river where we can meet for a cup of coffee or a glass of wine and celebrate what is a meeting place in the heart of the city. And so there are ideas like that around the city that we can partner with our Indigenous friends to really create some economic opportunity for all of us.
Great. Thank you very much. Access has provided a follow-up, and that question is, what specific policies would you introduce to make Edmonton a leader in Canada in its relationships with Indigenous peoples? We'll start with Michael, then Cheryl, Kim, Mike, followed by Amarjeet. Michael.
So I'll expand on the plan down in West Rossdale, where we have the power plant building, we've got a couple of pump houses, and we have no place outside down by the river that we can meet and go for a walk. And I've met with different groups from the Indigenous community, from Chief Morin, from Enoch, from the Papa Chase. I've met with Access, and those are the kind of things that we can do as a city to really move these things forward. There's also the idea of the urban reserves, which is a really interesting idea, and we can create pieces of land in the city where our Indigenous friends can also succeed economically. We also have to ensure that our Indigenous partners have opportunity to be represented in the city. So I'm talking about on various boards, economic, of course, social, all the other things that the city does. We really need to make sure that there's diverse opinions there. You know, one of the things that I learned when I was on city council, of the many things, is that diverse backgrounds, diverse opinions really create the best ideas and the best solutions. And so that's what I'm going to do going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Off to you, Cheryl.
There's a big opportunity here. And so we already have two great agencies, Innovate Edmonton and Edmonton Global. Now imagine if we brought Access alongside those two organizations and really focused on a framework for us to begin building companies here in Edmonton that are made up of Indigenous leaders, Indigenous offerings, Indigenous makers, and actually built more companies here in this city with these roots. This has been a gathering place, a place of trade and commerce since the beginning of time. We have this within our DNA. It's time for us to actually create the environment for these companies to be created here and to be successful.
Thank you. Kim.
In talk access in particular, one of the things we need to focus on is a policy around helping Indigenous people by giving them a helping hand of getting on to into educational programs. And that's why I call for learner cities, so that we bring our post-secondaries together and figure out what we can do more and effectively to help Indigenous people find jobs and opportunity. That we need to challenge our business community to look at hiring Indigenous people and take a social enterprise approach to further work with agencies who have people who are Indigenous that are ready to transition from without not having a home, so that they can actually get jobs and opportunity. We also need to look at the urban reserve concept, and that doesn't mean the city of Edmonton having to put a lot of money in that. What that means is empowering some of our Indigenous bands to actually take a leadership role in working and figuring out how to develop the land. So I see a number of different ways we can make a difference, including providing training so that everybody has an opportunity to apply for a board by getting training on how to be on a board. And so that we have a level playing field on all the civic boards and agencies that the city of Edmonton appoints people to. But it starts with respect.
Thank you, Kim. Moving on to Mike.
Well, I guess I'll be perfectly frank. I am tired of talking about it. That's why I talk about social procurement. It's time to put it into our contracts. It's time to put it into our specifications. It is, this tokenism, this language has got to come to an end. And so, I can give it shout outs to merit contracting, people who practice these things, IBEW, who practices these policies. And it's at the end of the day, it's actually getting it on the ground and making it happen. And there are good companies out there. And it's not adding a lot of cost to the end project. That's the important thing to remember. But we're getting not just a good return on investment, but we're getting good social return on investment for the public dollar. And I think that's a very practical, can-do thing. You can flip the switch on right away. And I just got to be honest, we just got to get to it.
Thank you, Mike. And finally, Amarjeet.
First of all, I want to acknowledge all the good work that many Indigenous leaders have been doing in Edmonton to repair and build that stronger relationship with the city. We have recently announced our framework on reconciliation and correcting the historical inequities that are holding Indigenous people back. That framework includes recognizing and removing the problematic names from buildings and public spaces. It includes economic opportunities and participation and a partnership model with Indigenous communities. It also includes elevating the Indigenous Relations Office, which is housed in a mid-level management at the city now. I want to elevate that office to city manager's office. So there's a direct accountability of the city to Indigenous communities in Edmonton to make sure that we are living up on our commitments.
Thank you, Amarjeet, and thanks to all of the candidates for those responses on some very, very important issues. So now we're going to move on to take questions from the audience, and once again, you can submit your questions at any time using the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen, and I will pose your question to the candidates. So our first question comes from Sonia, and Sonia asks, in 2017, City Council passed policy C-590 to minimize traffic shortcutting and speeding through residential communities. The speed limit in residential communities was reduced, but little has been done to stop traffic shortcutting. If elected, what will you do to avoid shortcutting through mature and established neighborhoods? We will start with Mike, followed by Cheryl, Amarjeet, Michael, and Kim. So to you, Mike.
Well, it's probably my kind of question, simply because I've talked about ending photo radar. The fact is, if you want to stop people from speeding, shortcutting, you need to start handing out demerits. And photo radar is not an answer to our traffic shortcutting, our speeding issues. The fact is you need police officers or sheriffs pulling you over, handing you out demerits for those chronic speeders. And so it's also about making sense of the ridiculous kinds of speed signs we've got clear across the city when people are saying 30, 40, 50, 30. It almost feels like there's a war on cars. And that is the other side of the equation. Our neighborhoods, I have Ritchie, for example, that should be 30K. I have Manissa, that should all be 50K. So bringing back some common sense to the road will also bring some safety and some stability to the drivers and the pedestrians. But it starts, first of all, with just simply handing out demerits.
Thank you. Cheryl.
Two main root causes to these detours that are happening through neighborhoods. The first are a lot of these GPS apps that we are all so fond of right now, and there are some approaches that we can take to make adjustments. But what I want to actually talk about is the impact that our city has in causing people to detour, and it's construction. We are living in a construction city, and so many of our roads right now are shut down, and there are detours everywhere. I announced a smart construction policy that proposes accelerated timelines and smaller areas of construction so that we can manage that efficiently and quickly on extended work hours and work days so that we reduce the amount of detours that are happening in this city.
Thank you. Amarjeet.
The city has a fundamental responsibility to ensure that people living in their neighborhoods feel safe. and traffic safety is an ongoing concern, and people detouring through neighborhoods. Uh, you know, there are areas that you need to have better enforcement, absolutely, but you also need to educate people on the impact of their behavior. People in the city has reduced neighborhood speed limit to 40 kilometers. We need to make sure that is being enforced, and also bring consistency in areas where speed goes to 30 to 40, then 50, then people get confused. Right? I think there's a lot of things that we can do, and I look forward to working with the city's traffic safety branch to see how we can support communities. And there's a local solutions as well. In some areas, the calming measures have been implemented, and we need to build on those.
Michael.
The fundamental problem is that the city is treating every neighborhood the same, and every neighborhood is different, and different neighborhoods have different priorities, they have different histories, they have different needs. And the challenge in shortcutting is not citywide, but it is a problem in some neighborhoods. In one of the neighborhoods that I represented on city council, it was one, and so I helped to put something in place that really stopped the shortcutting in that neighborhood, and we have to treat that neighborhood different from others. So whether it's shortcutting, which by the way is a safety issue, but whether it's shortcutting or infill or construction or whatever the city is doing in local neighborhoods, we have to treat them all the same and then support them. Just as an aside, I've got a plan for infrastructure that's going to really support local neighborhoods, where we can put infrastructure dollars into an off-leash park or a playground, whatever a local neighborhood wants. And so that's the way that we can treat the neighborhoods differently and really help them achieve what they're trying to achieve in our city. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. To you, Kim.
You know, in the past, when I was on city council, we spent a lot of time on traffic safety, and I don't think Edmontonians realize that we have more traffic lights than any city in North America. And so we have spent a lot of dollars on trying to figure out ways to make our cities safer and to stop shortcutting in local neighborhoods. In fact, we researched and discovered that 40 kilometers doesn't work in every neighborhood. So what does work, and what I found works well, is making sure that you design the roads so that they reduce shortcutting. And one of the programs that I introduced that has been very successful is the Neighborhood Renewal Program, where we are fixing neighborhoods that when they need to be fixed. And as part of that program, we offer opportunities for neighborhoods to look at cross-cutting and seeing what can happen, what they can do with the city to address those issues, from bollards to other options. And so today, I am pleased to say that we have touched 237 of the 300 neighborhoods. The other issue we have is construction. We need to do a better job of coordinating construction in Edmonton so people can get around our city. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. So our next question comes from Ryan McDonald of the Alberta Cannabis Council, and it relates to business license bylaws. And so the question is, Edmonton City Council announced an overhaul of the business license bylaws. With the overhaul was a commitment to reduce cannabis business license fees from $2,500 to $260 per annum. Will you follow through with this reduction, and do you have any comments on how the City of Edmonton will support the continued transition of the industry to the legal market from the unregulated industry? We'll start with Michael, followed by Amarjeet, Kim, Cheryl, then Mike. Michael.
Well, as I said in my opening remarks, the city has to get out of the way and let businesses succeed. And one of the ways that the city has to step up is with a better permitting process. So whether it's development permits or business licenses, there needs to be a guarantee of how long it's going to take, so landlords and tenants and people doing work, building things in our city will have some cost certainty and time certainty. So my plan is to have an automatic 30-day approval. So if someone comes in with a completed application, they will have an approved permit, whether it's a development or business license, within 30 days. And if the city doesn't have time or the inclination, the city bureaucrats, to look at it, it's going to be deemed approved. And that's the way that we can get out of the way and let businesses succeed. And whether it's a cannabis business or a restaurant, it doesn't really matter. We just have to let business move at the speed of business. And right now, it is a fundamental challenge that we have in our city.
Amarjeet.
No, I talked about granted timelines for permits, licenses, and inspections, and also the creation of the business advocate office. But more important, I believe, is my proposal to create a permanent mayor's council on business growth. I have heard from so many businesses that they don't have a consistent and structured way to communicate and have input into city decision making. And I think that creation of that council coming from every sector of the economy will allow these sort of issues to be brought to the table and sorted out, many other issues like this. I think what we need to do is change the culture of this organization, saying, we are here as partners. Our role is to help prosper together. Our role is to help businesses grow. And the best way to do that is continue to communicate and engage and learn what the challenges they face. And the creation of this advisory council will help us do that.
Thank you, Kim.
I think the number one thing that we need to prioritize at the City of Edmonton is developing a culture where our city is asking our citizens, how can we help you? And that starts by reducing, obviously, some of the challenges we have with permitting. So I support deemed permitting, but I also support empowering our frontline workers to be able to make the decisions that they used to be able to make on things like zoning and permitting. I've heard from them that they have to go through layers of bureaucracy in order to get decisions made. I also think that we need to do a better job of using innovation and technology to speed up the permitting systems. There is no reason why we can't be more modern in how we handle permits. And we need to have a guaranteed timeline so that businesses are not sitting there waiting, especially right now with COVID. So it is critical that we empower our frontline workers and that we have a culture of customer service at the City of Edmonton. And I would do that as our next mayor.
Cheryl.
The answer to the very direct question that was asked is yes. I would maintain the fees for this industry and their business licenses at now the more rational and reasonable rate that they've been identified as. The original excessive fees didn't make sense, and we shouldn't be looking at new industries with a new lens. So we really need to have more common sense and practical practices when we think about the fees, the licensing, and the processes that we have businesses go through. It's one thing for many of our politicians to talk about what they've heard, but it's another to actually experience the situation. I am one of those leaders that has had to rely on our city bureaucracy to move our business forward. And this is a new lens that we need to bring to the city, is through the eyes of those that are experiencing the situation.
Thank you. And finally, Mike.
Well, thank you very much. The answer is yes. And what a lot of people don't know is I introduced the cannabis bylaw here in the City of Edmonton. And so, I kind of find it funny that all the candidates are talking about mandatory permit times. Well, I talked about it first, so much so we actually have the bylaw already written. So 2 weeks in, we're ready to go. But there's a real opportunity here that we need to talk about value-added manufacturing for the hemp sector, for cannabis, and so on. And Edmonton is yet to seize that opportunity simply because of regulation. And the cannabis sector clearly needs an advocate to move that file forward, because those jobs are there. They're ready to be had. We can be the center of cannabis value-added manufacturing in Canada, but we have to be smart. We have to talk about insurance. We have to talk about finance. And in doing that, those are the mechanics of getting that sector moving forward. So it's not just about permits, it's about moving that sector forward.
Thank you. So our next question comes from Allison, and Allison asks, what is your perspective on the differential between property tax for business and residential? Why does it keep growing for business, and what would you do, if anything, to close the gap? We're going to start with Amarjeet, followed by Michael, Mike, Kim, and Cheryl.
Leading up to my announcement and after the announcement to run, I engaged with a lot of business leaders. And this is an issue that has come up so often, the differential of 2.5 times that business and property owners pay. And that is one of the reasons that I have proposed to create the permanent body of business leaders to continue to work with city administration, mayor's office, and councillors to explore options, how we can work together to tackle these kind of very complicated issues. At the same time, we need to continue to have enough resources to provide quality public services, but we also need to make sure that the inequities or the undue burden that exists on commercial property owners is tackled. So I look forward to working under that committee if I get elected.
Michael.
You know, Amarjeet doesn't like talking about tax rates. When we started that campaign, he was at 8%. And, you know, we have meetings with nonprofits and he promises things. We have meetings, you know, he promised to reverse outsourcing. And now he's talking about inflation, keeping it at inflation. So I don't know if he knows, but inflation is at 4% right now, which means that the mill rate at 2.7, we're talking about an 11% tax increase next year for the businesses in our city. And I don't know about your business, but 11% for the first year is just not sustainable given what's going on economically and with COVID in our city. And it's enough. The city's operating budget, when I left City Council 4 years ago, was $2.7 billion. It's now $3.1 billion. It's $400 million more. The city hasn't grown that much. We're just spending money on everything, trying to appease everybody. And we're gonna have to make some tough, smart decisions going forward. And so I've committed to a property tax decrease over the next 2 years, which will affect businesses as well, of a 1 to 2% in year 2. And we need to step up and help everybody in our city succeed.
Mike.
Well, I've talked about this quite a bit, the difference between the tax rates, what is inside the city versus outside the city. We have bled on the industrial commercial tax base for almost 20 years now. It has been a long history and it has to stop. And so we have to bring balance back. So it is about bringing jobs and opportunities inside the city. That means we have to level the playing field, not just on taxes, but speed to market in terms of our regulation. If you think about how much square footage we lost just on the 3 million for Amazon, because they could go faster than the market, there was $3 to $5 a square foot differential between being inside the city of Edmonton and outside. You wonder why they're out there. So if we want to bring more balance back to this, it's about getting that tax number down. I looked at 3.5% reduction, labor has looked at it, and businesses looked at it, and they think it's achievable with the plan we have. So we have to focus on the fundamental results about bringing things inside the city. That's where I focus.
And to you, Kim.
You know, I don't think most Edmontonians realize that since 2013, we have seen almost a doubling in our residential taxes. And when it comes to non-residential, which is how we tax business, depending on your classification, some businesses have seen significant increases. And as a result, the businesses are actually locating in the region, or they're leaving Edmonton altogether. So I am calling for a 0 and a 0 and a review of both our residential and our non-residential. And I think it's really important for us to understand just how much these taxes are going to be creating a situation where we're going to have a lot of boarded up businesses because of COVID compounding everything. So I think it's really important that our next mayor and council get our fiscal situation in order, that we actually focus on helping business in every way that we can. And part of that is addressing the taxes. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. And to you, Cheryl.
Here's what I'll say. I am the only one sitting here on this stage that has not raised your taxes. And so my other mayoral candidates here have all played some role in continuing to support the expansion of city services outside of their mandate. And business has borne the brunt of this expansion. It is time for us to get back to our mandate, the things that you expect us to do as your city government. Get back in line, shape our city services to a more affordable offering and one that actually delivers to you, the businesses, because you are the job creators here in our city. And so we cannot continue to constrain you, because if we do, we continue to reduce your ability to provide jobs for Edmontonians.
Thank you, Sharon. We're going to come right back to you on the next question. And the next question comes from Dan, and he asks, efficiently and effective moving people around is vital for a growing city. But it is also vital for Edmonton as a business and leisure travel destination. LRT is one component, but we need to get the balance right across multiple modes. So beyond LRT, what do we need to do to make public transit more user-friendly and accessible? So we'll start with you, Cheryl, followed by Amarjeet, Michael, Mike, then Kim.
We really need to view mobility as a service and look at what the needs of our customers are, your employees. And you're right. Right now, we have so many neighborhoods in this city that are not being served by transit. I rode the bus for the majority of my early years, and so did my mom. It was the only way that she got to work. And right now, we have neighborhoods and areas, large areas of our city that don't have bus service. So we need to get back to the basics. We need to focus on how we get people from where they are to where they need to be. And that doesn't mean large investments into large, long-term infrastructure projects right now that I think that we are all saying the commute patterns have changed. So we have to get back to mobility as a service that serves the current needs.
Amarjeet.
I have the experience of getting big things done when it comes to transportation. LRT expansion, Yellowhead Trail expansion, I secured $230 million of federal support. 50th Street and 82nd Avenue rail crossing, grade separation. I believe that Edmontonians should have a choice. If they want to travel by bike, they should have that. If they want to get on transit, they should have that. If they want to drive, they should have that. I'm the only candidate on this stage who has unwavering commitment to get the LRT built to the West End, to Southwest, and eventually to Castledown, a community that has been waiting for 2 decades to get the LRT. So North End deserves LRT, and my commitment is to get it done.
Thank you. Michael.
So the math on city transportation is this. About 70% of the people in the city drive as their primary source. About 20, maybe a little bit less, take transit. About 5% ride their bike, 5% walk. And that's the math. And that's where we need to spend our money. You know, we've looked at redoing the transit system. It hasn't been perfect. We're going to have to tweak it. We're going to have to change it a bit. We know that. But we have to figure out a way to do things as efficiently as possible on all types of transportation that different people want to use. As far as the LRT, there's some talk about trying to cancel the West LRT. It's just flat out impossible. Just to educate everybody, the contracts are signed, the land's been bought, the business is expropriated, other levels of government have funded it. They're not going to be willing to put in money as a penalty without getting anything built. So that's going to be done. We have to make sure now that it's done on time, on budget, and then the associated development at those transit stop happens, because that's what's going to help pay for it. And then we have to make the make the service as user-friendly as possible so people actually use the service. And so we have a lot of work to do on all these different transportation issues, and I look forward to the challenge.
Thank you, Michael. And to you, Mike.
Well, I've been pretty clear. Fix the one you have, finish the one you got, right? And the Valley Line's a year and a half behind, and we're talking LRT here in the Metro line. And at the end of the day, before you spend $2.7 billion forward on a new line. I disagree with Michael. I disagree very strongly. There is no deal that cannot be undone, but it's just a question of how bad the bill is going to be and how much damage is this West End LRT going to cause us. And so we need 7 votes to really look hard at that deal. So we've got to look at that. I did not support the bus network redesign. We got to put the bus routes back. The customer has to come first. So this is about putting those bus routes back. This is about safety on our buses, because right now what we've got is not working. So there's the North End that has literally no service in some areas. So we're going to have to do this structurally, one section of the city at a time, roll up our sleeves and fix that network.
Thank you. Finally, the question to you, Kim.
Thank you. You know, I think the first thing that we need to do is we've just rolled out a brand new transit system where we have on-demand service. I have been out meeting with Edmontonians, and I have to say, in particular, North Edmonton has been totally, absolutely ignored when it comes to the on-demand transit service. So that's one of the things we need to look at. I already have helped as a candidate for mayor to reinstate a bus 78 in the southeast, given that these people had lost their bus. So that's the first thing that we need to do. When it comes to LRT, you know, I was a big proponent for LRT. In fact, I helped and worked very hard to decommission our old trolley bus system, but I lost a critical vote. We build the LRT for land use planning, and we are locked into a contract on the West LRT, and I recognize that we need to get it done on time and on budget and we need a rail car deal with our LRT system. So I have real concerns, and I need to make sure as mayor that we have a good transit system and that it's integrated. And that is what I will do if I'm elected. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Our next question comes from Paul Whitaker with Global Public Affairs. Paul asks, as mayor, are you realistically unable to deliver your well thought out agendas without the support of a majority of your council colleagues? How would you go about achieving with your colleagues the degree of collaboration and consensus needed to deliver on your vision? We'll start with Amarjeet, followed by Cheryl, Michael, Kim. Amarjeet, Cheryl, Michael, Mike, then Kim.
So when I got elected in 2007, I had 3 priorities: get the LRT to Millwoods, get the Meadows Rec Center built, and get the Millwoods Library built. None of those projects were on city's radar, on city's books. But I worked hard to convince my council colleagues because I listened to them, I respected them, I understood their priorities. And today, all of those 3 projects are done because I believe in collaboration. I believe in working together. When you do that, when you respect each other, when you understand each other's priorities, that's how you move your agenda forward. I deeply believe that council must work together, and mayor's office need to set the tone by giving council members the respect they deserve and the leadership that they need to provide in their ward and throughout the city, and you will expect and you will get that from me.
Thank you, Amarjeet. To Cheryl.
This is such an important question because we know that the mayor is just one vote. And for all of the ideas that Mike brings to us, we've all seen that his inability to work with council has not been able to move things forward. So here's 2 ideas that I have on how we can create a more effective and cohesive council. The first is that everyone wants to feel like they're being brought along, that they really understand the vision. And so the years that I spent working in Innovate Edmonton and working directly with council, I spent a lot of my time working the hallways and really bringing a greater understanding into why some of the ideas were going to be able to move us forward. The second thing is we have a lot of capacity on council, and so rather than have them only focus on their ward responsibilities, identifying portfolios that they could lead and manage that would actually be benefiting the greater city, I think would be a good means of us really bringing more capacity to that table.
Thank you, Cheryl. To you, Michael.
Well, the politics of city government is as such, there's 3 legs to the stool. There's the mayor's office, city council, and the bureaucracy. And to get something done, you have to have 2 of those legs of the stool. So you don't need the mayor's office, you don't need the bureaucracy. And so that's how I would move things forward. You know, Mr. Nicholl here has been fighting with city council for decades, trying to be the mayor since high school. And that's not going to get anything done. The city council and bureaucracy will work around him and get whatever their agenda is passed. I've had a relationship with all the city councilors that are there. They're all going to be there. You know, there's been 2 losses of a city council seat in 20 years. So for all the bluster, they're all going to be there again. And I've been building those relationships. I've got positive relationships with them. I've also reached out to the leading candidates in the other wards, trying to build those relationships early. And so I know how to, you know, I have an experience of building a team, putting things together for a common goal. And I'm really confident that I'm going to get the support to get the agenda that I have planned moved forward.
Excellent segue to Mike.
Well, let's be perfectly frank. These people would like you to believe that I haven't accomplished anything. So let's talk about drainage that got fixed in Millwoods when we had other councillors there that had let it sit. Let's talk about the cannabis bylaw, which was passed unanimously, that I champion. Let's talk about minimum shelters for standard, passed unanimously. Let's talk about bill number 3 that was passed at the legislature for mobile home site users with total bipartisan support. It's a very selective narrative. The point is, though, is that, you know what, we're not always going to agree. So I'm not going to agree to tax increases because we've had enough. I'm not going to agree to more red tape or a city plan that wants to put in toll roads and ban cars. I find that to be a bit of a problem. So at the end of the day, you lead with good ideas. And I want to leave you with this answer, is that we're here for you. We work for you, not for the politicians nor the administration. So at the end of the day, I'm working for you.
Thank you, Mike. And so finally to you, Kim.
First of all, I've already been working on trying to figure out ways to build a team with the new city council. So I've been meeting with all of the candidates from all of the wards because I understand how team building works. And I also understand how it works to empower your new city manager and work with the administration to get things done. And I have a track record of getting things done, more of a track record than any of the candidates that are before you today. I got things like the 23rd Avenue overpass done. I worked and got the airport closure done. I worked very hard to get us the new downtown arena. I also worked on the neighborhood renewal program, which has fixed 237 of the 300 targeted neighborhoods. I created Edmonton's Next Gen, and I have a passion for Edmonton that I can bring to this city and show leadership. And it starts by bringing that team approach. And I have to say, when I see all of the candidates going back and forth, I don't think that's the approach that we need in our new leader. We need leadership. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. Our next question comes from Sherry Klassen. She's with the Edmonton Business Improvement Area Council. And Sherry asks, if elected, what will you do to support revitalization and recovery of our main business improvement areas like Old Strathcona, 124th Street, and Alberta Avenue? This order will be Kim, Cheryl, Michael, Amarjeet, followed by Mike.
Already talked about is my strategy for main streets, which is part of the downtown core, would apply to all the BRZs. Clearly, we need to make sure that no storefront is left behind, as we do see businesses unfortunately not making it through COVID. We need to do what we can to work with our business revitalization zones to figure out whether we can do tax incentives or other options, grants, to help them so that they can get through what is going to be some tough times. One of the things that I would do is obviously reduce on the permitting side so that the businesses can have more outdoor space options to operate their businesses. And I think it's really important for the mayor to get out there and meet with all these business leaders and be showing themselves out there in our business revitalization zones and promoting them and promoting local businesses. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. To Cheryl, please.
One of the most important business areas right now is our downtown, and that's based on the sheer number of businesses and the property tax revenue that they generate. I announced very early a central business neighborhood policy that's got 5 key points. The first is safety partnerships so that our businesses aren't on the front lines of dealing with some very serious safety issues. The second is around business made simple, making sure that our taxes, our licensing, and our permitting processes are as smooth, simple, and affordable as they can be. The third really is around transportation that serves the core. So how do we make sure that we have the right parking and transit practices? Fourth, around how our roads and sidewalks and systems all work. And finally, as technology as an enabler.
Thank you, Cheryl. To you, Michael.
Well, the BIAs are, our main streets of our city, and we really have to do as much as we can to support them. We're not going to have the resources to support everybody all the time, and we really have to concentrate our economic recovery around downtown and our business improvement areas. And so some ways we can do that, which might be a small way, is actually to put in our public art in those areas. We don't need to have public art by bridges and all, industrial areas. I think we have to concentrate it and give people a reason to come to these business improvement areas. Another plan that I released last week, which was a bit controversial, I know, is to close off White Avenue every Sunday afternoon for a few hours where people can have a place to walk around and listen to music and have a car-free zone. And so this is some of the ideas that we're coming up with. We can try things. If they don't work, we can change it. I'm nothing if not flexible, but we have to do everything we can to support these areas. Not only are they our employment hubs, but they also provide an enormous tax base to our citizens. And if our main streets and downtown and White Avenue and the other areas don't work, or we're going to have some really tough economic times.
Amarjeet.
I announced our 10-point plan, immediate actions that we will take to revitalize downtown and Chinatown, and many of those steps are applicable to other business area districts and main streets. They include better cleaning, garbage litter pickup that is not picked up on time, working with arts and culture to activate back alleys and dead spaces, bring in more multicultural and indigenous festivals to business districts, and building a better relationship with the area business association and mayor's office. So all these actions combined, I'm absolutely confident will help us bring more life and entertainment, encourage more people to feel safe and do business in those districts, because they're so vital for building a thriving, not only economic center, but also that social and entertainment that you need in our city.
Thank you, Amarjeet. Now to you, Mike.
Certainly, it starts with the issue of safety. We have to stabilize the situation, and this is why we talk about streaming people who are in need for treatment for trauma and addiction, because we have to support the marketplace. And there are so many assets that are underutilized in our downtown core. For example, let's take the art gallery. I've talked about the art gallery and about digitizing their collection so we can put it online for sale. We can talk about CKUA and how they're trying to turn into a music clearinghouse. I'll give you another example of something so simple. I picked up the phone and phoned the AGLC about putting artists back to work for live music for extended bar hours. These are the kinds of things, if you want to put it back into downtown, for example, these are specific ideas. These are things we can execute right away, and we can put artists back to work, and we can, as soon as we do that, we get downtown vibrant again once we've established the safety. And that's right now, if no safety, you can't have a marketplace.
Thank you. So our next question comes from Jason Pincock. He's the CEO of our presenting sponsor, DynaLIFE. And so Jason's question is, what is your vision and approach to Edmonton's relationship with surrounding municipalities in the region in relation to business development and infrastructure planning? So we're going to start with Michael, followed by Amarjeet, Kim, Cheryl, then Mike. Michael.
Well, thank you. You know, the Edmonton Global is a pretty interesting initiative, and I think it was the right thing to do for EEDC to get broken up into Innovate and Edmonton Global and Explore Edmonton, because really we have to look at our economy as a region. We're not going to win alone as Edmonton, and we're definitely not going to win fighting with our regional neighbors. We have to compete with the whole world, not the region. So we have to ensure a bunch of things are right. So number one, that we have a unified tax system, which we don't right now, and that's a big, big thing we have to solve. You know, we don't want to have a race to the bottom on industrial commercial tax rates with our regional partners. And that's literally, I think, the most important thing that needs to be worked on going forward. And then we have to promote our region to be able to drive industry, to drive business to the city and the region. Because as we all know, the commercial and industrial tax base is the winner. That's where we make a good chunk of our revenue, and that's where we make a good chunk of our profits, to put it in that regard. And so we have a lot of work to do with our region. We've got to play nice, but we also have to be strong if needed. Thank you. Thank
you, Michael. Now to Amarjeet.
I believe that as a region, we need to work together. We need to hunt as a pack. That's why when I was a federal minister, I worked hard to secure funding for Edmonton Global, as well as two major petrochemical sectors in the heartland area, investing $6 billion, unlocking private sector investment of $6 billion. We are stronger when we work together, because outside world does not see us as different municipalities. They see us as one region. And we have so much potential in the pharmaceutical area, in geothermal area, in petrochemical, in hydrogen. But in order to untap that, we need to have a united front working together, but also building a better relationship with provincial government and tapping into federal opportunities that are available for us to grow our economy.
Thank you, Amarjeet. Now to you, Kim.
You know, coming from the business that's a tech business, I see tons of opportunity to work with the region on various different industrial opportunities. Some of those are overlooked, such as the agricultural tech sector. We have opportunity with the logistics hub, and we have opportunity to look at things like rare earth metals, since we're already mining in the oil sands, and recycling rare earth metals, which power all of our cars and all of our devices. We need to work with the region in terms of other things, such as looking at exploring the opportunity for regional policing, regional transit system. Because if we don't do well in Edmonton, the region's also going to be affected. And I see lots of opportunity for us to get out there and work together. And I also feel that we can start that by bringing all the mayors together to work on a new children's hospital for the city of Edmonton. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. Cheryl.
I've had a front row seat for this conversation about the Edmonton metro region for more than 5 years now. And really what I'm interested in is how are we doing a better job of using the collective revenues to bolster and pay for some of the services within the region of core Edmonton that many of those regions rely on. So when I'm talking to people downtown in Edmonton and I say, hey, where do you live? Probably 1 in 4 say St. Albert or Sherwood Park. And so we're all benefiting in the region from the roads, the sidewalks, the transit services, everything here in our core of Edmonton, but we don't see the revenues coming from the region to help pay for those things. I'd like to start talking about how we do a better job of sharing in the expenses.
Thank you, Cheryl. Mike.
Thank you very much. I have a different perspective than a lot of politicians on the region. I have quite a bit of experience outside the city with NISQ and so on. And my argument's very simple. I do not blame the region for doing what they do. They're lower cost, lower regulatory jurisdictions. And I'm interested in pushing jobs and business inside the city. And if it works for the region, it works for the region. This should be driving us to improve our product. And don't blame the region for what they do, but we have to become more nimble. I'll give you a particular example. We lost a 200-person food processing plant from North Edmonton who wanted to use Edmonton Transit, right? But when they compared permitting turnaround times for Edmonton versus Sturgeon County, they jumped the jurisdiction. And so we have to, first of all, get our own house in order before we start preaching to anybody else at the end of the day. So the region is a friendly competitor. Let's be quite honest about it. And so that's how we have to approach it. The deals have to be right for Edmonton if they're going to work.
Great. Thank you, Mike. To you, Michael.
I already answered. I can answer again if you
Oh, that's right. Well, sure.
Ditto to what I said before.
Okay, very good. So our next question, thank you again all. Our next question comes from James, and before we wrap things up, and James is asking, what is the most important topic the mayor will need to engage the provincial government on during the first year in office? And so we're going to start with Kim, followed by Mike, Michael, Amarjeet, then Cheryl.
Kim. The most critical thing we need to talk to the province about right now is getting through this pandemic. So I have called for mandatory vaccine passports, anything that we can do to get business so that they can open. The next thing is to talk about jobs and opportunity. Certainly the province of Alberta needs to come to the table more effectively to help Edmonton deal with the fact that we are having more than our share of burden right now in terms of people who are without homes. We are leading the country right now in defaults on residential taxes, and I'm sure we'll be doing that as well on the business side. And so we need to talk to the province about what they can do to work with us on both of those fronts, both fiscally and when it comes to jobs and opportunity. The other thing that we need to have a conversation with the province about is how we can work more proactively together. You know, it's important not to have party politics in the city government. We're not designed for that. And I'm willing to work with whatever political party, no matter their political stripe, whether it's the province or the feds, or working with the fellow mayors from all of the province of Alberta. So I think that's the type of leadership we're going to need.
Thank you, Kim. To you, Mike.
Well, the first fundamental thing we have to do is demonstrate to the province, and it doesn't matter if it's UCP, NDP, it doesn't matter to me. The fact is that we have our house in order before we start asking for things. And the bottom line is that we've got a lot of cleaning up to do to demonstrate to the province that the money that they're sending back to us is well spent. And once we have that trust back, that kind of relationship back, then we can start talking about that post-COVID economy, where we want to seize these opportunities. And it's not just the provincial government we got to talk to. We should be talking to Calgary. We should be talking to our rural neighbors. There's enough business to go around if we choose to go chase it. And I think that's what we need to do. If we're going to rebuild this economy, give people freedom and opportunity, We have to literally do this together, and we're gonna have to each choose our deals, and then we're gonna have to go for them. And yes, it is, we're gonna get past COVID. And so what does the day look after that?
Thank you, Mike. To you, Michael.
Well, our provincial relationship will not get fixed by Trudeau's best friend, who is partisan poison with our provincial government, and it won't get fixed by someone who can't win a UCP nomination in their own ward. What we need is somebody who is non-partisan, who's going to start with a clean slate. Right now in the province, we are being left out of every single conversation as a city. All of the wind is going to Calgary in the rural areas, and we need to step up as a city and rebuild that relationship. So the way that I'm going to do that is to find 2 or 3 things that us and the provincial government agree on. We need to get some quick wins and start to build that relationship early. And so I'm going to spend a lot of time with whatever government is in place to build that relationship and to get some wins for the city of Edmonton. We are not winning right now on anything. And it's time to stop talking about it and do something about it. And I'm the one person here who can do that.
Thank you. Amarjeet.
Well, during my time in public office, I worked with 6 premiers in Alberta, and I worked with premiers from all over the country. What I will do if I'm elected as mayor is build a coalition of community leaders from businesses, from nonprofit sector, from Indigenous communities, from cultural faith communities to demand better from this provincial government. Implore them that when Edmonton is not living to its fullest potential, Alberta's economy is held back. We need support to tackle social issues. We need support for our economic growth. We need to demand better from this provincial government to show leadership tackling this pandemic because it's hurting us, it's hurting our economy. I will build that coalition of leaders and have a conversation with this government that why investing in Edmonton should matter to them.
Thank you, Amarjeet. Cheryl.
This is so important because we know that we cannot solve our greatest challenges alone. No municipality can. I have a lot of experience working with both parties that have been recently in power, the NDP and the UCP, when I was leading Innovate Edmonton. And my peers in Calgary as well, we recognize this was such an important opportunity for our future economy that we formed a partnership called the Alberta Innovation Corridor Partnership, where both of our major cities came together to collectively advocate for the needs of the businesses being created here in our city. A number of months ago, I announced the intent to expand this partnership to the Alberta Economic Corridor Partnership, leading into our city's natural and legacy strengths and partnering with Calgary to really create an effective and mutually beneficial relationship with all orders of government.
Thank you, Cheryl, and thanks to all of you, all of the candidates today. That is all the time we have for questions today. But before we wrap up, we're going to give each of the candidates an opportunity to do a 1-minute wrap-up and their final closing remarks. And so we're going to start with Mike, then Cheryl, Michael, Kim, followed by Amarjeet.
Well, a minute's not a lot, so we'll just go right through it here. I'm going to stop the war on cars. We're going to create an independent project management office so we can put our projects on time, on budget. We're going to protect our river valley from unnecessary and unwanted development. We're going to end photo radar because it's just a license for rich people to speed, and we need police back in our neighborhoods for community policing and context. We will introduce mandatory permit times. I already have the bylaw written. We will make Edmonton that affordable tax jurisdiction for not just families and businesses, but for everyone. And that's what we got to focus on. This is about for everyone. And we need to save this money, not just to reduce taxes, but we need to reinvest in core services, particularly frontline. Can't we cut the grass again, is what I hear often at the doors. And frankly, yeah, we are the city of champions. So I'm going to put those signs back up, despite what someone else has said here today, because I do believe in this city. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike. Cheryl.
COVID has changed everything, and it is time for an outside perspective. It is time to challenge the status quo. I'm here as an everyday Edmontonian, someone that grew up here, struggled, and worked hard to get where I am today. Now I want to work hard for my city. I'm a successful business leader that has built a career on evaluating and challenging the current state to deliver results. The current and past city councilors that are also running for mayor will not bring that. So when you think about the city that you want to see in 4 years, that we all want to see in 4 years, that needs to look different than today, who here do you think has the ability, business acumen, and courage to move us forward?
Thank you, Cheryl. Michael.
Well, thank you to the Chamber, first of all, for putting on this event. The question on everyone's mind is who is the best person to lead us out of the pandemic and into the direction of economic recovery, social supports, and a vibrant city? Who can lead the recovery of our city fiscally with the city's finances, economically that drives business success and investment, and socially to deal practically with the many social challenges before us, and finally, politically, to repair the broken relationship we have with our provincial government. With my unique business background, with my strong social conscience and practical actions, and my nonpartisan experience on City Council, I am that person. So on October 18th, I ask you for your support.
Thank you, Michael. Kim, your closing remarks.
You're all here today because you understand how important this election is. You are the dedicated citizens and business leaders who make this city great and who care about the future of Edmonton just like I do. I came to Edmonton for love, but I stayed because I fell in love with Edmonton. And I'm optimistic about our city's future. Yes, we will face real challenges over the next 4 years, but there will also be tremendous opportunities if we elect a leader with the courage and the know-how to empower all of us to seize them. It's time for Edmonton to be not the best kept secret, but to be real about who we are as a city, but be bold about the fact we have so much to offer. I am ready to get out there and get wins for our city. Edmonton deserves a mayor who will unify rather than divide. On October 18th, don't vote against something, vote for something. A vote for me is a vote for Edmonton. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. And finally to you, Amarjeet.
If last 18 months have shown us something, is that leadership matters. Leadership that can bring people together, not pull them apart. Leadership with compassion, focus, because we are at a pivotal moment. We need to get our economy back on track. We need to tackle social issues of homelessness, mental health, addiction. We need to end racism in our city, and we need to tackle climate change. We need a leader that can tackle complicated and complex issues, particularly one who can rise above personal attacks, one who is focused on you, one who's focused on working with you to build a better city and Edmonton for all of us. If you give me the chance, I will be that leader. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And we're sorry if we were not able to get to all of your questions today, but I thought the discussion has been very, very, very helpful. So ladies and gentlemen, please join me in extending thanks to our candidates. And thank you to all candidates for participating with us today, including those who submitted video introductions. I would like to take this opportunity to thank His Worship Mayor Don Iveson for his service to the Edmonton region for the past 14 years. We wish him the very best of luck in his new adventure. Once again, I'd like to extend sincere thanks to our presenting sponsor, DynaLIFE Medical Labs, and our supporting sponsors, the Insurance Bureau of Canada, ZAG, Global Public Affairs, for making today's event possible. And thanks also to Encore for hosting us in this fantastic studio. Now, give me the opportunity to highlight some upcoming events. From October 18th to 22nd, we have BDC Small Business Week presented by Service Credit Union. We'll be offering educational and networking events catering to small businesses and entrepreneurs. Our Shop Local initiative, Better When It's YEG, has a variety of initiatives, events, contests, and activities. So hop over to our website at edmontonchamber.com to get all the details, and we hope to see you. Thank you again for joining us this morning. We wish you a good day and good business.